The world stopped when Emily saw her. Lily stood by the edge of Lake Willow, her red hair catching the last rays of the Oregon sun, a vision so vivid it stole Emily's breath. At 25, Emily had spent her life tethered to her identical sisters, Claire and Ava. But this moment, this piercing, unshakable pull toward Lily was hers alone. They were the Callahan triplets, mirror images of each other. Same chestnut eyes, same sharp cheekbones, same freckles dusting their noses. Born minutes apart in a small Portland hospital, they'd grown up as a unit, their lives woven together like threads in a single tapestry. But beneath the surface, their hearts beat to different rhythms. Claire, the eldest by 3 minutes, was the pragmatist, her ambitions fixed on a corporate law career. Ava, the youngest, was the dreamer, sketching designs for dresses she'd one day sell in her own boutique. And Emily, the middle sister, was the quiet one, the one who felt too deeply, who carried a secret that set her apart. She loved women, and she loved Lily most of all. Lake Willow was their summer ritual, a place where the triplets escaped the noise of Portland to reconnect. This year, though, the air felt heavier. Emily's heart raced as she watched Lily, their childhood friend, now a 26-year-old artist with a laugh that could melt glaciers. Lily had always been part of their world, the fourth piece of their puzzle, but for Emily, she was something more, a dream she'd never dared speak aloud. As the sun dipped lower, Lily turned, her green eyes locking with Emily's. A smile flickered across her face, and Emily felt the world tilt. "Am you okay?" Claire's voice cut through the haze. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, her lawyer's gaze scanning Emily's face. Claire was always watching, always analyzing, as if she could sense the fault lines in their trio. "Yeah," Emily lied, her voice barely above a whisper. She tugged at her flannel sleeve, hiding the tremble in her hands. Ava, sketching by a nearby tree, glanced up, her pencil pausing. "You sure?" she asked, her tone softer, more curious than Claire's. Emily nodded, but her eyes drifted back to Lily, who was now tossing pebbles into the lake. Each ripple felt like a pulse in Emily's chest. She'd known Lily since they were kids, when they'd built forts and chased fireflies. But last summer something had shifted. A brush of hands, a lingering glance, moments that haunted Emily's dreams. She'd spent a year convincing herself it was nothing, that Lily couldn't possibly feel the same. But now, standing here, she wasn't so sure. The triplets had always shared everything. Clothes, secrets, even crushes. But this was Emily's alone, and it terrified her. Coming out to her sisters had been hard enough. 2 years ago, over coffee in their shared apartment, she'd stammered the words, "I'm a lesbian." Claire had nodded, practical as ever, saying, "Okay, cool. Doesn't change anything." Ava had hugged her, whispering, "I'm proud of you." But loving Lily was different. It wasn't just a label, it was a risk. A leap into a world where her sisters couldn't follow. As the evening deepened, Lily joined them, her presence like a spark in dry grass. "You three are impossible to tell apart," she teased, nudging Emily's shoulder. Emily's skin burned where they touched. "Except you, Em. You've got that quiet vibe, like you're hiding a novel in your head." Emily laughed, but it came out shaky. Claire raised an eyebrow and Ava's eyes narrowed, catching something Emily couldn't hide. The sisters were too close, too entwined. They'd always known when one of them was holding back. And Emily was holding back a hurricane. That night, around a campfire, the tension grew. Lily sat close to Emily, their knees brushing as they roasted marshmallows. Claire, sipping a beer, started talking about her latest case, but her eyes kept flicking to Emily and Lily. Ava, sketching the flames, was quieter than usual, her glances sharp and searching. Emily felt like a tightrope walker, one wrong step from falling. "Lily, you seeing anyone?" Claire asked suddenly, her tone casual but pointed. Emily's heart stopped. Lily laughed, tossing her hair. "Nah, too busy painting." "Why? You got someone in mind?" Claire shrugged, but her eyes locked on Emily's, a silent question. Emily's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to tell Lily everything, but fear held her back. What if Lily didn't feel the same? What if she lost her forever? As the fire crackled, Emily made a choice. She couldn't keep this secret any longer. "Lily," she said, her voice trembling, "can we talk? Alone?" Lily's eyes widened, but she nodded. They walked to the lake's edge, the world narrowing to just the two of them. Emily's heart pounded as she faced Lily, The words she'd rehearsed 1,000 times now stuck in her throat. I've been wanting to tell you something, she began, her voice barely audible over the lapping water. For a long time. Lily tilted her head, her expression soft but unreadable. Emily took a breath, the weight of her sister's gazes behind her, the weight of her own heart pressing down. This was the moment that could change everything. The lake shimmered under the moonlight, a silver mirror reflecting Emily's trembling resolve. She stood inches from Lily, her heart a drumbeat in her chest, each thud echoing the fear of rejection. "Lily," she said again, her voice steadier now, "I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air, raw and exposed. Lily's green eyes widened, her lips parting as if to speak, but no sound came. Emily's stomach churned. She'd imagined this moment 1,000 times, Lily smiling, pulling her close, or Lily turning away, her face clouded with discomfort. Now, faced with silence, Emily felt the ground shift beneath her. Lily finally said, her voice soft, almost a whisper. I had no idea." She reached out, her hand brushing Emily's arm, and for a fleeting second, hope flared in Emily's chest. But then Lily's expression shifted, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. "I care about you so much. You're one of my best friends. But I don't feel that way." The words hit like a physical blow, stealing the air from Emily's lungs. She nodded, her throat too tight to speak, her eyes burning with unshed tears. Lily stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. "I'm straight, Em. I'm so sorry if I ever made you think otherwise." Emily forced a smile, the kind that hurt to wear. "It's okay," she lied, her voice cracking. "I just had to tell you." She turned away, staring at the lake, willing the water to swallow her shame. Lily lingered as if wanting to say more, but then she squeezed Emily's shoulder and walked back to the campfire, leaving Emily alone with the weight of her broken heart. Back at the fire, Claire and Ava were waiting, their faces a mix of concern and curiosity. Emily sat down, avoiding their eyes, her hands twisting in her lap. "What happened?" Ava asked, her voice low, her sketchbook forgotten. "Nothing," Emily said, too quickly. Claire's eyes narrowed. "Bullshit," she said, her lawyer's tone cutting through the night. "You're shaking, Em. Talk to us." Emily wanted to scream, to tell them to leave her alone, but the Callahan triplets didn't work that way. They were a unit, bound by blood and history, and secrets never stayed buried long. "I told her," Emily admitted, her voice barely audible. "I told Lily I love her. She doesn't feel the same." Ava's hand found Emily's, squeezing tightly. "Oh, Em," she whispered, her eyes glistening. Claire leaned forward, her expression softening for once. "That sucks," she said simply, but there was a weight to her words, an acknowledgement of Emily's pain. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Emily stared into the fire, replaying Lily's words, each one a knife twisting deeper. She'd known rejection was possible, but she hadn't expected it to feel like this, like losing a part of herself. Lily stayed quiet, sitting a little apart, her usual warmth dimmed by the awkwardness between them. The next morning the triplets packed up their campsite, the air thick with unspoken tension. Lily had left early, citing a painting deadline, but Emily knew it was an excuse. The drive back to Portland was silent, the hum of the car the only sound. Claire drove, her hands tight on the wheel, while Ava sketched in the back seat, stealing glances at Emily. At their apartment, Emily retreated to her room, closing the door on her sister's worried looks. She curled up on her bed, clutching a pillow, letting the tears come. She'd spent years hiding her feelings, building walls to protect herself, and now those walls were crumbling. The worst part wasn't Lily's rejection, it was the fear that she'd lost her friend forever. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between Emily and Lily grew. They'd always texted daily, sharing memes and sketches, but now Lily's replies were sporadic, polite but distant. Emily tried to move on, throwing herself into her job at a local bookstore, but every romance novel she shelved felt like a mockery of her pain. Meanwhile, Claire and Ava watched her like hawks. Claire, ever practical, suggested dating apps, rattling off statistics about finding love online. Ava, more intuitive, brought home Emily's favorite coffee and left sketches of flowers on her desk. But their efforts only made Emily feel more alone. They couldn't understand what it was like to love someone who didn't love you back, To feel like your heart was a betrayal of who you were supposed to be. One evening, Ava knocked on Emily's door, holding a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "We're talking," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. They sat on Emily's bed, the wine loosening their tongues. "I know you're hurting," Ava said, her voice soft. "But you're still you. Lily not loving you doesn't change that." Emily shook her head, tears spilling over. "It's not just Lily. It's everything. Being the only one who's different. You and Claire, you fit in this world. I don't." Ava set down her glass, her eyes fierce. "You fit with us. Always." She pulled Emily into a hug, and for the first time in weeks, Emily felt a flicker of warmth. But the warmth didn't last. At a family dinner, their parents asked about Lily, oblivious to the storm in Emily's heart. Claire, trying to deflect, mentioned a new case at work, but Ava's eyes met Emily's, a silent promise to keep her secret. Emily excused herself, stepping onto the balcony, the Portland skyline a blur through her tears. As she stood there, her phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Can we talk? I miss you." Emily's heart leapt, then sank. Was this hope? Or another wound waiting to happen? She typed a reply, then deleted it, her fingers trembling. The triplets were unbreakable, but Emily's heart was not. And as she stared at the city lights, she knew this was only the beginning of her fight to find her place in a world that didn't always understand her. Emily stared at Lily's text, the words glowing on her phone like a beacon in the dark. "Can we talk? I miss you." Her thumb hovered over the keyboard, torn between hope and fear. She wanted to believe Lily meant it, that their friendship could be salvaged, but the sting of rejection still burned, a wound too fresh to ignore. She pocketed her phone and leaned against the balcony railing, the cool Portland air biting her skin. Below, the city pulsed with life, cars weaving through streets, lights flickering in distant windows. Emily envied that rhythm, the ease of a world that seemed to know its place. For her, every step felt like a battle, not just with Lily's rejection, but with the weight of being the only triplet who didn't fit the mold. Claire and Ava, with their straight loves and clear paths, seemed to glide through life. Emily felt like she was stumbling through a maze. Inside, the family dinner continued, her parents' laughter filtering through the glass door. Emily had always been close to her sisters, but tonight, their presence felt like a spotlight on her differences. She was the lesbian triplet, the one who loved too fiercely, who dared to want what she couldn't have. The thought of facing Lily again, of reopening that wound, made her chest tighten. Claire appeared at the door, her silhouette sharp against the warm light of the dining room. "You okay out here?" she asked, stepping onto the balcony. Her voice was softer than usual, the lawyer's edge dulled by concern. Emily shrugged, avoiding her sister's gaze. "Just needed air." Claire leaned against the railing beside her, silent for a moment. "You don't have to do this alone, you know," she said finally. "Whatever's going on with Lily, we've got your back." Emily's throat tightened. Claire wasn't one for emotional displays, but her words carried weight. Still, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her sisters, no matter how much they loved her, couldn't fully understand. "Thanks," she said, her voice hollow. "But it's not that simple." Claire nodded, her eyes scanning the skyline. "It never is," she said, and for a moment, Emily wondered what burdens Claire carried behind her polished exterior. The next day, Emily agreed to meet Lily at a small coffee shop in Southeast Portland, a place they'd frequented as teens. The shop smelled of roasted beans and nostalgia, its walls lined with local art, some of it Lily's. Emily arrived early, her nerves jangling like loose change. When Lily walked in, her red hair catching the light, Emily's heart lurched. She looked the same, yet different, her smile tentative, her eyes guarded. "Hey," Lily said, sliding into the booth across from Emily. "Thanks for coming." Emily nodded, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she hadn't touched. "You said you missed me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "What does that mean?" Lily sighed, her fingers tracing the edge of her coffee cup. "I miss us. The way things were. Before." She trailed off, her eyes meeting Emily's. "I hate that I hurt you, Em. I didn't know how you felt, and I feel awful for not seeing it." Emily's chest ached. She wanted to be angry, to demand why Lily hadn't noticed, but the sincerity in Lily's eyes disarmed her. "It's not your fault," Emily said, though the words tasted bitter. I should have kept it to myself. No, Lily said quickly, leaning forward. I'm glad you told me. I wish I could be what you want. But I can't. I'm not wired that way. The words cut deeper than Emily expected, a confirmation of what she'd feared. Lily's heart belonged to a world Emily could never enter. But there was something else in Lily's voice: regret, not for her own feelings, but for the pain she'd caused. I don't want to lose you, Lily added, her voice breaking. You're too important to me. Emily swallowed hard, torn between the urge to walk away and the pull of their history. I don't know if I can just be friends, she admitted, her voice raw. Not yet. Lily nodded, her eyes glistening. I get it. But I'm here whenever you're ready. They sat in silence, the hum of the coffee shop filling the space between them. Emily felt like she was standing at a crossroads, one path leading to a future without Lily, the other to a friendship that might always hurt. She didn't know which was worse. Back at the apartment, Ava was waiting, her sketchbook open to a drawing of 3 figures by a lake, unmistakably the Triplets. How'd it go? She asked, setting her pencil down. Emily sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. She wants to be friends, she said, the word friends heavy with defeat. I don't know if I can do that. Ava moved to sit beside her, her shoulder brushing Emily's. You don't have to decide now, she said. Give it time. You're stronger than you think. Emily wanted to believe her, but the weight of Lily's rejection clung to her like damp clothes. She thought of Claire's words on the balcony, of Ava's quiet support, and realized her sisters were her anchor, even when she felt adrift. But anchors couldn't erase the ache in her chest, the longing for a love that would never be hers. That night, Emily lay awake, replaying the coffee shop conversation. She thought of Lily's smile, her kindness, and the unbridgeable gap between them. She thought of her sisters, their unspoken promise to stand by her. And she thought of herself, the triplet who dared to love differently, who was still searching for her place in a world that didn't always make room for her. As dawn broke, Emily made a decision. She couldn't change Lily's heart, but she could change her own path. She would find a way to heal, to love herself first, even if it meant walking alone for a while. The triplets were her strength, but this journey was hers alone. Emily woke to the sound of rain pattering against her window, a soft rhythm that matched the quiet resolve settling in her chest. She'd spent weeks drowning in the aftermath of Lily's rejection, but today felt different. Today she wanted to fight for herself, not for someone else's heart. The apartment was quiet, Claire already at her law firm and Ava at her design studio. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open to a blank document. She'd always loved writing, pouring her thoughts into journals no one read. Now she typed the words she'd been too afraid to say aloud. I am enough. It was a start, a small rebellion against the pain that had defined her for too long. Portland's spring rain was relentless, but Emily didn't mind. She walked to the bookstore, her umbrella shielding her from the downpour. The shop was her sanctuary, its shelves lined with stories of love and loss, courage and redemption. Today she lingered in the queer fiction section, pulling out a novel about 2 women finding their way to each other. She bought it not because she was ready to believe in love again, but because she wanted to believe in herself. At home she found Ava waiting, her sketchbook filled with new designs, dresses with bold lines and vibrant colors. These are for you, Ava said, sliding the sketchbook across the table. I thought you could use something new, something that feels like you. Emily traced the drawings, her fingers lingering on a flannel-inspired dress with soft blues and greens. These are beautiful, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Ava's gift wasn't just fabrice, it was a reminder that her sister saw her, even in her darkest moments. Claire came home late, her briefcase slung over her shoulder. She paused when she saw Emily and Ava at the table, the sketchbook open between them. What's this? She asked, her tone curious rather than sharp. Ava's designing me a new wardrobe, Emily said, managing a small smile. Claire raised an eyebrow then grinned. About time you ditched those old flannels, she teased, but her eyes were warm. For a moment the triplets were just themselves, no secrets or pain between them. But the peace was fleeting. A week later, Emily ran into Lily at a local art gallery, where Lily's paintings were on display. The sight of her standing beside a canvas of swirling blues and golds stopped Emily in her tracks. Lily saw her and smiled, but it was cautious, like stepping onto thin ice. Hi, Lily said, approaching. I didn't know you'd be here. Neither did I, Emily said, her heart racing. She'd been avoiding places where Lily might be, but Portland was too small for that. Your work's incredible, she added, gesturing to the paintings. Thanks, Lily said, her smile softening. They talked for a while about art and books, carefully skirting the past. It was almost like old times, but the undercurrent of unspoken words kept Emily on edge. When Lily hugged her goodbye, Emily felt the familiar ache, but it was softer now, less like a wound and more like a bruise. Back home, Emily confided in Ava, who listened without judgment. Do you think you can be friends with her? Ava asked, her pencil pausing over a new sketch. I want to try, Emily said, surprised by her own certainty. I miss her. Not just the part one loved, but all of her. Ava nodded, her eyes thoughtful. That's brave, Em. Braver than you know. Claire, overhearing, chimed in from the couch. Just don't let her hurt you again, she said, her voice protective. You deserve better. Emily knew Claire was right, but better felt like a distant promise. She was learning to love herself, but it was slow, like rebuilding a house brick by brick. She started therapy, a step she'd resisted for years. Her therapist, a kind woman with a knack for asking hard questions, helped Emily untangle her feelings about Lily, her sisters, and herself. You're not just the lesbian triplet, her therapist said one day. You're Emily. That's enough. The words stuck with her, a lifeline in the storm. She began writing again. Not just journal entries but short stories about women like her, women who loved fiercely, who stumbled but kept going. She shared one with Ava, who read it with tears in her eyes. This is you, Ava said, pointing to the protagonist. This is your heart. Claire, less sentimental, read the story and nodded. It's good, she said, her highest praise. You should submit it somewhere. Emily laughed, but the idea took root. She started submitting her work to literary magazines, each rejection a sting, each acceptance a spark of hope. She was finding her voice, not just as a triplet or a lesbian, but as Emily Callahan, a woman with stories to tell. As spring turned to summer, Emily saw Lily again at Lake Willow, their old haunt. The triplets had planned a weekend there, a chance to reconnect. Lily joined them at Ava's invitation, and Emily braced herself for the familiar pain. But this time it was different. Lily was just Lily, funny kind of friend. Emily still loved her, but the love was quieter now, less a fire and more a steady glow. They sat by the lake, the four of them, laughing over old memories. Claire told a story about a disastrous high school prank. Ava sketched the sunset, and Lily teased Emily about her new dress Ava's design. Emily felt the weight of her sister's love, the strength of their bond, and for the first time she felt like she belonged, not just to them but to herself. Summer at Lake Willow felt like a full-circle moment for Emily. The water shimmered under the midday sun, its surface a canvas of light and memory. She sat on a blanket with Claire, Ava, and Lily, the four of them surrounded by the ghosts of their younger selves, kids who'd chased fireflies and shared secrets under these same stars. Emily had changed since that night she'd bared her heart to Lily. The rejection still stung, but it no longer defined her. She'd spent months rebuilding herself, piece by piece, through therapy, writing, and the unwavering love of her sisters. Now, as she watched Lily laugh at one of Claire's dry jokes, Emily felt a quiet peace. She wasn't over Lily, she might never be, but she was learning to live with that love, to let it be a part of her without consuming her. Claire, sprawled on the blanket with a beer in hand, was different too. She'd landed a big case at her firm, but the stress had softened her edges. You know, she said, glancing at Emily, I'm proud of you. You're tougher than you look. Emily smiled, warmth spreading through her. Thanks, Claire. Means a lot. Ava, sketching the lake, looked up with a grin. She's always been tough, she said. Just took her a while to see it. Lily, sitting cross-legged with a sketchpad of her own, nudged Emily's shoulder. They're right, you know. You're kind of a badass. Emily laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months. She looked at Lily, at the freckles dusting her nose, the green eyes that had once broken her heart. "You're not so bad yourself," she said, and for the first time the words felt like friendship, not longing. The weekend was a balm, a reminder of the bond that held them together. They swam in the lake, their laughter echoing across the water. They roasted marshmallows, the firelight dancing on their faces. And when the stars came out, Emily felt a sense of belonging she hadn't known was possible. She was still the lesbian triplet, still the one who loved differently, but that difference was no longer a burden. It was her strength. Back in Portland, Emily's writing took flight. One of her stories was accepted by a prominent queer literary magazine, a small victory that felt like a triumph. She read the acceptance email aloud to Claire and Ava, her voice shaking with pride. Claire raised a glass of wine in a mock toast, while Ava tackled her in a hug. "You're a writer, Em," Ava said, her eyes shining. "You're doing it." The publication brought new opportunities. Emily started attending local writing groups, meeting other queer women who shared her passion for storytelling. One of them, a poet named Mia with a quick wit and warm brown eyes, caught Emily's attention. They talked for hours at a coffee shop, their conversation flowing effortlessly. Mia wasn't Lily, but she didn't need to be. She was someone new, someone who saw Emily for who she was. Emily didn't rush into anything. She was still healing, still learning to trust her heart. But Mia's presence was a spark, a reminder that love could come again, in ways she hadn't expected. They exchanged numbers, and when Mia texted her a poem the next day, Emily felt a flutter of hope. The triplets' bond grew stronger through it all. Claire opened up about her own struggles, pressure at work, the fear of never being enough. Ava admitted she'd been rejected by a design school, a blow she'd hidden from everyone. They sat together in their apartment, sharing their fears and dreams, their laughter and tears. Emily realized they were all searching, all fighting to find their place, even if their paths looked different. One evening, Lily came over for dinner, bringing a bottle of wine and a new painting, a gift for Emily. It was a portrait of the lake, the triplet silhouettes against the sunset. "This is us," Lily said, her voice soft. "All of us." Emily hung the painting in her room, a reminder of their history, their resilience. She looked at it each morning, drawing strength from the image of three identical women, bound by love, shaped by their differences. Claire's ambition, Ava's creativity, Emily's courage, they were a tapestry, woven together, unbreakable. As summer faded into fall, Emily stood on her balcony, the Portland skyline stretching before her. She thought of Lily, now a friend she cherished without pain. She thought of Mia, a possibility she was ready to explore. And she thought of her sisters, her anchors, her home. Emily had once believed her heart was a liability, her love a secret to be hidden. But now she saw it differently. Her heart was her power, her truth a gift. She was Emily Callahan, one of three, but wholly herself. And in that truth she found a love that no rejection could dim, the love she had for herself, for her sisters, for the life she was building, one brave step at a time. The world hadn't always made room for her, but Emily was carving her own space, a place where she could love, write, and thrive. And as the city lights glowed below, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be.